The night Tupac Shakur died did not begin with chaos. It began months earlier, quietly, in words almost no one wanted to take seriously.
Near fatal shooting, but he couldn't survive a second. Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25.
In early 1996, Tupac was at the peak of his power. He had just been released from prison, signed to Death Row Records, and was flooding the world with music, movies, interviews, and controversy. To the public, he looked unstoppable. But if you listen closely to what he was saying and rapping, something darker was already unfolding. In interviews that year, Tupac spoke obsessively about death. Not in metaphors, not in abstractions. In specifics, he told journalists he didn't expect to live past 25. He spoke about being ready if it happened. In one interview with Vibe, he said almost casually that he felt like he was living on borrowed time. Friends later said it wasn't bravado. It sounded like acceptance. On record, it was even clearer. Songs like If I Die, Tonight, Life Goes On, and Only God Can Judge Me weren't just expressions of paranoia. They were rehearsals. Tupac described gunshots, funerals, revenge cycles, and unfinished lives with eerie precision. Music journalists later noted how often he rapped in the past tense, as if narrating his own obituary while still alive. But this wasn't happening in a vacuum. By 1996, Tupac was surrounded by real danger. He had survived a shooting in New York in 1994 and believed, rightly or wrongly, that people in the industry wanted him dead. The East Coast-West Coast feud was no longer lyrical theater. It was violent, personal, and spiraling out of control. Tupac was constantly armed, constantly watched, constantly on edge. Those close to him noticed a change. According to his bodyguard Frank Alexander and producer Johnny J. Jackson, Tupac began giving away possessions. He recorded obsessively, sometimes multiple songs in a single night, as if racing against something unseen. He talked about legacy more than future plans. He joked about death the way exhausted people do, half serious, half resigned. Then came September 7th, 1996. After watching a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, Tupac was riding in a BMW with Death Row CEO Suge Knight. At a red light on Flamingo Road, a white Cadillac pulled up. Gunfire erupted. Tupac was hit 4 times. 6 days later, on September 13th, 1996, Tupac Shakur was pronounced dead. He was 25 years old, exactly the age he had long said he would never surpass. What happened next turned a death into a myth. No arrests, conflicting witness statements, changing stories, and lyrics that suddenly sounded prophetic instead of poetic. Fans replayed his music and heard warnings they had missed, lines that felt like clues, interviews that felt like confessions. In hip-hop culture, Tupac didn't just die. He transformed. He became a symbol of a generation that burned too brightly, too fast. A man who seemed to sense the ending long before it arrived. Whether Tupac truly predicted his own murder or simply understood the violent world he was trapped inside remains unanswered. But one thing is undeniable. Few artists have spoken so clearly about their own death and been proven right.